a show of defiance against Taliban rule as the country celebrated Independence Day, the end of British control in 1919. Sporadic anti-Taliban protests spread to more cities. Many were met with gunfire to break up the crowds. Taliban fighters reportedly fired on people waving the Afghan flag at a rally in the eastern city of Asadabad. Witnesses said several people were killed. Gunfire also rang out for another day outside Kabul's international airport as crowds desperately tried to flee the country.
For those who make it past the Taliban checkpoints and into the airport compounds, life here is pretty rudimentary. Thousands are sleeping out in the open, and yet the atmosphere is one of hope and relief. It may not be comfortable, but it's safe.
NATO and Taliban officials estimate at least a dozen people have been killed in and around the airport in recent days, either by gunshots or in stampedes. The Taliban has even called on the country's imams during Friday prayers to persuade their followers to stay in Afghanistan. The U.S. is urging people to get to the airport as soon as possible, but Taliban fighters are preventing many from doing so, despite U.S. officials repeatedly saying they had struck a deal with the Taliban to allow passage. Pentagon officials reported more than 7,000 people have been evacuated so far. About 5,200 U.S. service members are involved in that operation. Armed U.S. fighter jets are also flying overhead to maintain security. Back in Washington, the Pentagon estimated between 5,000 and 9,000 people can be flown out daily, a number they are hoping to increase.
We've got additional consular officers now at these additional gates with additional troops helping the consular officers. And so I think we're poised to see an increase, but I want to be careful before I make predictions. What we're trying to do, what we want to drive, is an increase.
Outside the airport's perimeter, Taliban fighters patrolled the streets. One of the group's commanders vowed to restore peace.
The market is very crowded and people are very happy. A large number of people and residents of Kabul are not afraid of us anymore. We will bring security to Afghanistan and we will improve the economy and life. We will try to hand over the power to the people.
Meanwhile, in the western city of Herat, a glimmer of normalcy as girls return to school to take their midterm exams. The militant group said they can continue their education as long as they wear their hijab head coverings. How long this continues remains an open and urgent question. Afghanistan is also facing a humanitarian crisis with major food shortages and a drought that resulted in the loss of more than 40% of the country's crops. Caroline Van Buren is with the United Nations Refugee Agency in Afghanistan. She warned the situation is especially dire now that tens of thousands of Afghan people have been displaced.
80% of those forced to flee within the country are women and children. They need shelter, healthcare, sanitation, and other core relief items. Most of all, they need safety and stability.
At the same time, Afghanistan faces a potential currency collapse. The head of the Afghan central bank warned its supply of US dollars is, quote, close to zero. The International Monetary Fund has also blocked the country from getting loans.